Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Our mission today is pretty laser-focused. We are giving you a kind of strategic shortcut. It's about sounding not just, polite, but really authoritative.
Yeah.
And precise in pretty much any business situation. We've pulled together a huge stack of sources, really digging into that very formal, sometimes, let's be honest, ritualized language used across, 9 key areas?
That's right. 9 distinct areas of professional communication. And we're treating this business lexicon, less like a simple dictionary and more like a set of tactical tools. This isn't just about memorizing phrases. It's really an examination of let's call it social engineering, the specific architecture built into how we communicate professionally. Think email, meetings, negotiation tables, even global interactions. These phrases, they're kind of the non-negotiable foundations for building trust and efficiency, which is key.
Okay, so let's frame this whole deep dive with maybe one big question. Why?
Right.
Why do we fall back on these often formal, kind of lengthy, almost cautious phrases when, maybe 3 words would do? Why all the protocol?
That's a great question, because the core function really is twofold. First, it's about removing ambiguity, simple as that. And second, it's about projecting competence, reliability. Informality, you see, it creates risk. Whereas formality, it creates a certain distance. And that distance provides a bit of psychological clarity, maybe even legal safety, especially in high-stakes situations. So when you use the right phrase, you're signaling not just what you want, but that you actually understand the rules of the game, the whole interaction.
Ah, okay. So it's a signaling mechanism. That makes perfect sense. Right, let's unpack this strategic language then. Let's start with the tools we use every single day, the absolute basics, the written word in email, and the immediacy of a phone call.
Yeah.
Okay, so email. The sources suggest there's this constant tension, right, between being polite and needing something done quickly. This comes through perfectly, I think, in the difference between just typing ACP versus using that full phrase. What was it? At your earliest convenience, could you please confirm receipt of this email?
Yes, that phrase. It's a little masterpiece of, let's say, passive control. If you just dash off ASAP, you're basically imposing your urgency onto the other person, which honestly can often create a bit of antagonism, maybe just slight, but it's there.
Right, it feels demanding.
Exactly. But when you use at your earliest convenience, you're sort of, nominally at least, granting them agency. You're acknowledging they have other things to do. But, and this is the clever part, the social engineering still works. You've formally documented the request. And by asking for confirmation, you've set an implicit deadline. You haven't had to state a deadline, but it's there. It turns what could be seen as an aggressive demand into a reasonable request for prioritization.
I see that dynamic again in how we say thank you. We don't just say, thanks, got the email, quick. We use something like, thank you for your prompt response regarding the meeting schedule. That word, prompt, it feels very intentional.
Oh, absolutely intentional. It's positive reinforcement, pure and simple. You're acknowledging their efficiency, you're rewarding it, which makes it much more likely they'll prioritize your emails next time. It works. And then when you genuinely need to apply a bit more pressure, maybe the stakes are higher, you shift slightly. You might use your prompt attention to this matter would be greatly appreciated.
Ah, okay. Subtle shift.
Very subtle, but important. Notice the language change. It's gone from requesting a response to requesting attention to the matter itself. It's a professional nudge. It underlines the seriousness, but it still maintains that deference, that politeness.
But doesn't all this formality sometimes just sound robotic?
Yeah.
Especially for really routine things like sharing a document. If I attach a report, why can't I just say attached? Why the whole, please find the attached document for your review and feedback? It feels like heavy lifting.
It feels like heavy lifting, but it's actually critical. Think of it as procedural protection. In a sort of technical sense, using that formal phrase acts as documented intent. It proves the sender fulfilled their duty of disclosure.
Ah, okay. Disclosure.
Yes. It's less about just being polite and much more about establishing a clear, maybe even legally sound record. A record that the document was provided specifically for their review and feedback. It formalizes the transaction. It makes the recipient accountable for actually receiving it and, acting on it.
That completely changes how I see it. It's like risk mitigation built right into the grammar. Fascinating. And then, when we need to chase something up, the follow-up phrases also set the context immediately, saves the other person time digging through emails. Things like, I am writing to follow up on the previous conversation we had last week, or maybe the slightly softer version, I am reaching out to follow up on our previous discussion.
Precision here is absolutely paramount. These phrases, they cut through the noise in someone's inbox. They immediately link this email to a past event. If you just vaguely ask for an update, you force the recipient to do the mental work of remembering the context.
Yeah, which is annoying when you're busy.
Exactly. So by linking it to a previous conversation or discussion, you streamline their thought process. It's more efficient for everyone. And similarly, when you need more information, you frame it collaboratively. I would appreciate it if you could provide me with more details. It sounds cooperative, not like you're accusing them of leaving something out.
Right. Okay, let's talk about delivering news, because the sources really emphasize how crucial tone control is here. If it's good news, an application approved, maybe a discount, the language is quite celebratory, almost proprietary. Like, we are pleased to inform you that your application has been approved.
Yes, that word pleased. It elevates the message. It directly associates the organization, the we, with the positive outcome. It's actually part of branding and relationship building. But the real test of skill, as you hinted at, is delivering the negative news. This is where professional language really acts as a kind of relationship shield.
Right. So if you have to deny someone's request, you have to be clear, definitive, but you deploy regret. We regret to inform you that your request has been denied.
Yeah.
Why is stating that regret explicitly so vital, even if the decision itself is final? Non-negotiable.
Because that statement of regret, that apology, it acts as a critical buffer. Phrases like, we regret to inform you, or the more general one, we apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused. They allow the organization to show empathy for the person's experience, the inconvenience, the disappointment, without necessarily admitting fault for the underlying reason for the denial.
Okay. It separates the feeling from the fact.
Precisely. It separates the human interaction, the sorry, this is inconvenient for you, from the structural decision, but the answer is still no. It maintains that professional boundary. It helps ensure the relationship can hopefully survive the unwelcome news.
Okay, let's switch gears. The phone. Now we lose that safety net, that editing time we have with email. Communication is real-time, immediate, feels much higher pressure. The phrases here seem designed for, rapid traffic control and instant professionalism.
Exactly. Phone etiquette is fundamentally about managing the interaction flow and gatekeeping, in a sense.
Yeah.
The opening has to be instant and informative. Thank you for calling our company. How can I assist you today? Straightforward. Sets the expectation of efficient service right from the first second.
And then we get into managing interruptions, the classic holding protocol. You can't just put someone on hold silently, can you? You need to use, could you please hold for a moment while I transfer your call? Asking permission, almost.
Yes, asking permission is crucial, even for a necessary delay like a transfer. It shows respect for their time. And just as critically, when you come back or when the hold is over, you formally acknowledge their wait. Thank you for holding. I've located the information you requested. You're acknowledging their time investment, their patience. That simple thank you can mitigate a lot of potential frustration. It's professional recognition that their attention is valuable.
I find the language used when the person they want isn't available really interesting too. It immediately pivots to taking action. I'm sorry, but Mr. Smith is currently unavailable. Can I take a message? Polite refusal, but immediately followed by a solution.
Right, and notice the commitment that often follows. I will make sure to pass on your message as soon as possible.
Make sure. Not just, I'll pass it on.
Exactly. That commitment is explicit. I will make sure. It shows a company, or at least the person taking the call, retains ownership of the follow-through, even if the desired person isn't there. That level of professional commitment, it's non-negotiable in good customer service.
And because spoken words just vanish, there's a heavy emphasis on verification, right? Making sure you got the details down. May I have your name and company for our records, please? Standard stuff. But why the extra step of asking for spelling, even if the line sounds perfectly clear, like, could you please spell your name for me to ensure accuracy? Seems a bit much sometimes.
Maybe, but think about it. Error prevention is always cheaper than error correction later on. Misspelling a key client's name, or getting their company info wrong. That can cause real administrative headaches, or worse, damage the relationship.
Good point.
So these phrases are designed purely to ensure data integrity right at the point of capture, during that real-time conversation. And if there is an actual problem, like a bad connection, you use a phrase that deflects blame. Could you please repeat that the line was unclear?
Blaming the line, not the person speaking. Clever.
It's subtle psychology, yes. Very common in service language. You're not saying you mumbled. You're saying technology failed us. Much smoother.
That subtle framing really is everywhere when you look for it. Okay, finally on phones. What if the issue is too complex? For the person who answered first, the language seems to shift towards reassurance and escalation, maintaining ownership by saying, I will need to look into that further. Can I call you back?
Yes, or if transferring, I will transfer you to the appropriate department, please hold on. Again, asking permission to hold. This escalation language is vital. It ensures the customer, or whoever is calling, never feels abandoned or like their problem has been dropped into a black hole. You're explicitly committing resources, either your own future time for a callback or a specialist colleague via transfer to solve their issue. It's the highest level of assurance you can give in that moment.
Okay, so we've moved past the sort of day-to-day transactions. Now we're into the more strategic stuff. Communication that's really designed for achieving bigger goals, accountability, setting the direction for the organization. This feels like where the language of governance really kicks in.
Exactly right. Meeting phrases are, fundamentally, tools of governance. They're less about individual politeness, though that's still there, and much more about controlling the flow, controlling the narrative, and critically, respecting the collective time and resources of everyone in that room. Time is money, especially in meetings.
The way meetings start, according to the sources, seems highly standardized. It's about establishing authority and purpose very quickly. Thank you all for attending today's meeting. Let's get started. Boom. Straight in, followed immediately by setting the rules. Could we please review the agenda before we proceed with the discussion?
Reviewing the agenda is absolutely key. Think of it as the contract for that meeting. Once everyone implicitly or explicitly agrees to that agenda, the chairperson has the mandate. They have the authority to enforce the structure, and that empowers them to use those control phrases later on, like, let's make sure we stick to the agenda to respect everyone's time.
Right. That phrase is a polite way of saying, let's get back on track, isn't it?
Precisely. It's a professional, non-confrontational tool to gently shut down tangents or irrelevant discussions. It keeps the focus high level on the agreed-upon points.
What about managing questions during, say, a presentation? That phrase, please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. It's common, but doesn't stopping questions feel a bit counterintuitive if you want collaboration?
It can seem that way, but it serves a really vital organizational function. It's about minimizing what psychologists call cognitive switching cost. Interruptions during a focused presentation. They break the speaker's flow, their momentum, and they force everyone listening to constantly switch context, which is just inefficient.
Ah, okay. Efficiency again.
Yes. So that phrase essentially defends the speaker's focus. It ensures maximum information gets delivered clearly before the debate or Q&A begins.
That's a really good way to think about its tactical use. Okay, so how does the language then drive towards actual resolution? Because meetings can't just be talk fests, right? They need to produce something tangible. Action.
Right. They absolutely must. And that's why the language constantly insists on linking the present meeting to the past, and crucially, to the future. You often start by looking back, creating accountability. Let's discuss the action items from our last meeting. That immediately sets the tone. Talk leads to work. Actions have follow-ups.
I was really struck by one phrase used to refocus a debate that might be getting stuck. Let's focus on finding solutions rather than just discussing problems. That feels like an extremely politically astute phrase to deploy.
Oh, it's a critical tool for navigating meeting politics. In almost any meeting, you'll have people who are brilliant at spotting flaws, at identifying problems.
The problem identifiers.
Exactly, but they might be less good at generating workable ideas. This phrase is designed to redirect that, often negative, energy. It acknowledges the problem so the person feels heard, which is important, but it immediately imposes a productive framework. It shifts the energy from complaint towards creation. It protects the group's forward momentum.
Very smart. Yeah. And then the ending of the meeting is just as structured. To really nail down commitment, you can't just drift off. You need phrases that ensure definite accountability. Let's ensure we have a clear action plan before we conclude.
The action plan is the deliverable of the meeting. And then, crucially, you have to assign ownership for those actions, unambiguously. That's where can we agree on the next steps and responsibilities comes in, who does what by when.
Right.
And then the meeting minutes serve as the official record, the organizational memory, formalized by the statement, I will share the meeting minutes with everyone after the session. Meeting language, fundamentally, is designed to transition seamlessly from verbal agreement to documented, assigned, trackable action.
Okay, so project management communication. This feels like it takes that meeting accountability, maybe strips away some of the high-level debate, and applies it to a much more rigid, structured timeline. The language here seems intensely focused on deliverables, getting things done.
Absolutely. The entire lexicon of project management is built on explicit expectations and rigorous monitoring. Status checks aren't just casual chats, they're ritualized. Could you please provide an update on the current project status? That's not just how's it going. It's a formal request for assessment against the agreed plan, the baseline.
And deadlines are stated very professionally but firmly. No room for misinterpretation. We need to ensure all tasks are completed by the end of this week. That need to ensure phrase carries real weight, doesn't it? Signals it's a priority, maybe from management.
It does. And this whole process ideally starts with rigorous definition right at the beginning. We need to establish clear goals and objectives for this phase of the project, SMART goals, all that, because those goals have to be explicit. Project language is also inherently the language of risk mitigation. You have to proactively identify potential failure points. We see this in phrases like, could you please identify any risks associated with the current project plan? This isn't negative thinking, it's forcing the team to think defensively.
To anticipate problems before they blow up the budget or the schedule.
Exactly, before they materialize.
The coordination language also seems key, especially when dealing with people outside the immediate team, like clients. We need to coordinate closely with the client to meet their expectations. That phrasing makes coordination a direct requirement for success, not just a nice-to-have.
Correct. It links the internal activity directly to the external stakeholder satisfaction. And internally, the economic reality is embedded right there in the resource language. We need to allocate resources efficiently to meet our project deadlines. That word, efficiently, that's the hidden KPI, the key performance indicator, built right into the instruction. It governs decisions about people, money, time, how do we get the most value?
Right. And finally, project management isn't just about doing the work. It's about learning, improving for next time. That requires looking back, self-critique almost. Articulated through phrases like, let's review the project plan and make any necessary adjustments, maybe mid-project.
Yes, course correction. And then afterwards, reflecting on performance, let's discuss the project's overall progress and any areas for improvement. This feedback loop, using this kind of language, is essential. It's how organizations avoid making the same mistakes over and over again. It prevents systemic errors. Okay, now moving up another level almost. To planning and marketing. Here, the communication is really focused on foresight, on the big picture, organizational vision. The language has to translate often abstract ideas, future goals into structured strategies that people can actually execute.
The foundation seems to rely on these formal analytical frameworks to give everyone a shared starting point, a shared context. And the language reflects these tools, like the classic SWOT analysis. Let's discuss the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats facing our business. Using that phrase isn't just a suggestion, is it? It's like committing the group to that specific structured way of thinking, with the understanding it needs updating later, too.
It is. It's a commitment to a ritualized form of high-level analysis. And yes, the implication from other phrases, like phrase 37 about updating it, is that it's a living analysis, not a one-off. And then every action, every plan that follows must be explicitly measured against the organization's ultimate purpose, the why. So we have to confirm, let's ensure our business plan aligns with our long-term vision and mission. This phrase is like the strategic anchor.
Keeps things from drifting off course.
Exactly. It ensures the day-to-day tactical steps don't wander away from the company's core reason for being. And crucially, the plan itself needs resilience built in. We need to ensure our business plan is adaptable to changing market conditions. That speaks to flexibility, agility, survival, really.
Adaptability is the language of resilience. I like that. Okay. Shifting slightly to marketing. Language here gets really sharp, really focused on who the message is for. You have to clearly state the target. We need to identify our target audience for the upcoming marketing campaign. That forces the conversation immediately away from just broad ideas towards specific people, specific demographics.
Yes. And once you know who you're talking to, you define how you'll talk to them. We need to create engaging content that resonates with our target audience. Resonance, engagement, key concepts. But as we all know, great engaging content is kind of meaningless from a business perspective unless it actually achieves something, unless it contributes to the bottom line.
Right. Needs to be measurable.
Precisely, which introduces the required measurement language. Let's discuss the key performance indicators for measuring our marketing success. KPIs. This shifts the whole conversation away from subjective, I like this ad, towards objective results. Did it work? How do we know?
It forces accountability again. And in today's world, with so many channels, social, web, email, print, Maybe consistency is vital for the brand, so we need to ensure our marketing message is consistent across all platforms, making sure it all hangs together.
Absolutely. The overall goal of this entire planning and marketing lexicon, it's to take what might start as intuition or market knowledge and transform it into a rigorously structured, measurable, unified, and adaptable strategy.
All right, for our final section, we're looking at what you might call the high-impact scenarios. These are the moments where the relationship itself or a specific financial outcome is really on the line. These situations require the absolute most precise framing. The stakes feel higher.
Negotiation language is particularly fascinating because it demands this delicate balancing act. You need to project strength, certainty, maybe even control, but at the same time, you have to maintain this unwavering commitment to finding a partnership. It's a real tightrope walk in terms of language.
The opening seems critical. The sources say you immediately try to establish a collaborative frame, not an adversarial one, starting with something like, "Thank you for meeting with us today to discuss this potential partnership," using the word partnership right up front.
Yes, and emphasizing shared potential. We are excited about the possibility of working together and exploring mutual benefits. This signals right from the get-go that the discussion is hopefully structured around shared growth, finding value together, not just a zero-sum game where one side wins and the other loses.
Okay, setting a positive tone. Then, before you lay out your own position, the language aims to draw out the other side's goals. Could you please clarify your main objectives for this negotiation? Asking them first.
It's strategically smart. Information gathering. It allows you to understand their priorities, their non-negotiables, before you reveal your own hand. Helps you calibrate your response. And the ultimate goal, the ideal outcome, is defined by that core phrase. We are looking for a mutually beneficial arrangement that satisfies both parties. That word mutually is incredibly important. It acts as a kind of commitment device. It subtly limits purely aggressive demands by forcing both sides, at least rhetorically, to consider the other party's interests.
But I have to ask this, when you're negotiating hard, doesn't introducing language about compromise, about alternatives, signal weakness? Why not just state your position and stand firm? Why use phrases like, "We are open to discussing alternative solutions that meet both our needs"?
That's a common concern, but actually, in sophisticated negotiation, it often signals the opposite. It signals confidence and flexibility, not weakness. It shows you value the potential relationship enough to try and solve the problem creatively, rather than just digging in your heels. It's a proactive strategy to avoid deadlock.
Okay, so flexibility can be strength.
It absolutely can. And we also see commitment language used to reassure the other side, perhaps if things get tense. Something like, "We are committed to finding a solution that works for both parties," reaffirming the collaborative goal.
And the sources really insist on that final review before anyone signs anything or leaves the room. Solidifying the deal needs to be ritualized. Let's review the key terms once more to ensure we are on the same page.
Yes, that phrase acts as the final check, both legally and relationally. It's designed to prevent misunderstandings cropping up later. Buyer's remorse, seller's remorse. It ensures both parties walk away agreeing that the desired win-win outcome for both sides, as another phrase puts it, has actually been defined and achieved. That formal closure protects everyone involved.
Okay, now this might be the trickiest environment of all, intercultural communication. It feels like the professional lexicon here has to include a whole new vocabulary, one of humility maybe, inquiry. We have to basically admit up front that we might not be the experts in the room about how things work.
Precisely. The language absolutely must begin by establishing the core principle of respect. It is important to understand cultural differences in international business settings. Stating the obvious, maybe, but it sets the stage. And it's often followed by an explicit statement of values. Quote, "We value diversity and strive to be culturally inclusive in our practices." This isn't just corporate fluff. It's essential for signaling that you want an open dialogue about these differences.
The sources also bring up nonverbal cues, which is interesting because we're talking about language, about phrases. Understanding nonverbal communication can greatly enhance cross-cultural interactions. If we're trying to sound professional and informed, why focus on what isn't said?
Because in many, many cultures, those nonverbal cues, things like silence, how hierarchy is shown, personal space, eye contact, they carry significantly more weight than the actual words spoken. Sometimes the verbal agreement is secondary.
Wow, okay.
So a business professional who ignores these signals, who just barrels ahead with their own communication style, they're effectively failing to read the room. And that can lead to serious misunderstandings, damaged trust, even failed deals, operational risks. Therefore, the strategic language in this context must be focused on proactive inquiry, asking questions to avoid making basic, costly mistakes.
So we have to kind of formally ask for instructions on basic things. It can feel a bit vulnerable maybe, but it's necessary. Phrases like, could you please explain how business is typically conducted in your country? Asking for the local rule book.
It is absolutely a critical form of cultural risk mitigation. You are asking for the rules of the game up front. It shows respect. And this extends to communication style itself. Could you please explain the preferred communication style in your country? Directness, indirectness, high context, low context, knowing this is vital.
Right. Are they expecting you to read between the lines or say everything explicitly?
Exactly. These phrases show you're willing to invest the time to understand their procedural norms.
And then dealing with taboos. That feels like a really delicate one to bring up. Could you
Yeah.
please help us understand any cultural taboos we should avoid?
You're essentially asking them to point out where you might mess up. It requires a significant level of professional trust to ask that question and for them to answer honestly. But asking it signals a deep commitment to avoiding offense, to getting it right. The ultimate goal embedded in this whole intercultural lexicon is adaptation. It is essential to adapt our communication style to suit different cultures. Using language like this shows you're committed to making the partnership work, maybe even adapting to their preferred style. It makes the collaboration much more likely to be sustainable long-term.
Okay, our final high-impact zone. Customer service recovery.
Yeah.
This is communication often under duress, dealing with frustration, anger sometimes. The language here has to be a potent mix, deep empathy plus immediate ownership of the problem.
It's perhaps the ultimate combination of applied psychology and decisive action. You have to start by validating their feeling, their frustration, and then pivot instantly to finding a solution. I am sorry to hear that you're experiencing problems. Let's resolve this. Notice how quick that pivot is. Apology, validation, then straight into let's fix it.
Yeah, no hesitation.
That initial apology acts as a kind of necessary lubricant for the relationship. It allows the conversation to shift, hopefully, from just an emotional complaint towards constructive problem solving.
And then you follow up by explicitly stating the company's commitment, reassuring them that resources are being focused on their issue. We are committed to providing excellent service and resolving your issue promptly.
Yes, and framing their satisfaction as the absolute top priority for the company. I apologize for any inconvenience caused. Your satisfaction is our priority. This language aims to make the customer feel valued as a person beyond just this single, possibly negative transaction.
What about when the system is actually struggling? Like during really busy periods? The language used has to explain the delay, not just state it. We are currently experiencing high call volumes, please hold. Why is explaining the reason for the hold so important?
Because it externalizes the cause of the delay. It shifts the narrative in the customer's mind. Instead of them thinking this company is incompetent and can't answer the phone, they hopefully think,
Okay, they're just really busy right now.
exactly, this is a busy time for them. It helps manage their expectations about the wait time, potentially lowering the psychological pressure and frustration. And regardless of the reason for any delay, you absolutely must formally thank them for their endurance. We appreciate your patience while we investigate the issue further. Expressing appreciation for their patience is, again, a mandatory step in relationship maintenance during a difficult service interaction.
And then closing the loop. It doesn't just end when the problem is fixed, does it? The communication often tries to get feedback, an opportunity for them to actually help improve things. Could you please let us know how we can improve our service?
This signals that their complaint wasn't just handled and forgotten. It signals that their experience might actually inform future strategy, future improvements. It gives them a sense of agency. And that final phrase, the classic closer, please let me know if there is anything else I can assist you with. It confirms all immediate needs are met, but keeps the door politely open for further help. Professional closure.
Wow, okay. We have journeyed through 9 incredibly structured communication environments. We've analyzed the very specific, very formal language needed to, initiate contact, manage complex projects, set strategy, negotiate deals, navigate cultural minefields, and even resolve conflict. What's become crystal clear, I think, is that these aren't just random polite words. They are absolutely essential operating tools.
Absolutely. Mastering this lexicon, or at least understanding it, provides that strategic shortcut you mentioned at the start. It demonstrates that you understand the complex dynamics of professional relationships. These phrases project professionalism, yes, but also structural clarity. And perhaps most importantly, undeniable reliability. They ensure that, as that negotiation phrase put it, we have a clear understanding of each other's expectations before significant resources are committed or relationships are put under stress. That clarity is everything.
And it's fascinating how across every single one of these different categories, the bedrock concepts seem to remain constant. Things like gratitude and commitment. Thank you for your patience. We are committed to finding a solution. We look forward to collaborating soon. These simple foundational ideas keep showing up, reinforcing the relationship even when the core message might be difficult or demanding.
Which brings us perfectly to our final provocative thought, something for you, the listener, to consider. We've spent this time analyzing these extensive, often elaborate, highly formal, ritualized phrases. Phrases primarily designed for traditional, structured communication channels, the phone call, the formal email. But think about the direction of travel. The inexorable trend towards instant messaging, Slack, Teams, internal corporate chat platforms, and the increasing reliance on AI language tools often optimized for maximum brevity. How might this massive, carefully constructed lexicon of formal business English, the one we've just dissected, be fundamentally challenged by these forces? If the digital imperative becomes pure speed, instant context, what happens then? Will professional courtesy, as defined by these, let's face it, sometimes lengthy phrases, ultimately be replaced by the tyranny of the quick text, the brief message? And if so, what might be the long-term professional cost of sacrificing that formality for brevity? Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we try to cut through some of the noise of modern professional life.
There's certainly a lot of it.
Absolutely, man. If you're juggling projects, dealing with emails coming in at all hours, getting ready for maybe a big negotiation, it just feels overwhelming sometimes, right?
It really can. The sheer volume is immense.
So today, we're offering, well, hopefully, a crucial shortcut. We're doing a deep dive into decoding professional business English.
And it's vital knowledge, I think.
Yeah.
For any professional who wants to get up to speed quickly, and maybe you're in a new role or starting to work more internationally, the language isn't just, well, random words.
Oh.
It's a highly structured code. And the material we're looking at today, it's like a curated map. It guides us through the real intent behind all those standard phrases you hear and use.
Right, across different channels too, written, verbal, internal stuff, external things.
Exactly. Email, phone calls, meetings, strategy sessions, negotiations, even cultural awareness. It covers a lot of ground.
And our mission here isn't just to give you a list to memorize. That's not really the point.
No, definitely not.
We want you, the listener, to really understand the action, the intent behind these phrases. Like, why do people actually say "at your earliest convenience"? Why is a formal apology structured in that very specific way?
Getting that internal logic, that's the key. It's the fastest way to not just sound professional, but to actually be more effective, more efficient, and build credibility.
So understanding this logic is the real value here.
I think so. Look, these phrases are tools. They manage expectations. They clarify the relationship, what needs to happen next, almost instantly. Use the right phrase in the right context.
And you cut out the guesswork.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You eliminate ambiguity. And ambiguity, well, that's where things go wrong in business, isn't it? It causes friction, delays, misunderstandings. So this deep dive, it's about leveraging that hidden structure, that invisible layer, to make things work better for you.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Where should we start? Maybe the foundation, the written word, email.
Sounds like a good plan. Email communication. Our sources give us, what, dozens of phrases here? And many of them are doing that tricky dance between being polite and, well, needing something done.
Yeah, that politeness versus action thing. It's tough in email.
It is, because it's asynchronous, right? You don't have the tone of voice, the body language,
Right.
so the words have to carry all that weight, the tone, the urgency.
So how do we handle deadlines politely then? You can't just bark orders.
Well, no. Instead of demanding, say, get this back to me now, we use phrases like, could you please confirm receipt of this email at your earliest convenience?
Ah, the classic. At your earliest convenience.
I'm always fascinated by that one. It sounds so flexible, almost casual.
But it isn't, is it?
Not really. In a professional setting, everyone knows it means pretty soon, please, or this is important.
Exactly. It's a masterclass in polite urgency. But what happens if, that polite request gets ignored? Do you just get louder, more demanding?
Yeah, what's the next step? Do you escalate? Risk sounding, I don't know, rude? That's the critical point. The material suggests you don't escalate with anger, but with justification. You frame the follow-up by linking it back to something already established.
Ah, so you referenced the previous contact.
Right. You shift to phrases like, I am writing to follow up on the previous conversation we had last week. Or, Maybe, I am reaching out to follow up on our previous discussion. Something like phrase 3 or 39 in our lists.
Okay, so the professionalism comes from reminding them of an existing loop, not starting a new, annoying request. It's like saying, hey, remember this thing we already talked about?
Precisely that. You're jogging their memory about an existing obligation, which feels less like nagging and more like, well, procedural follow-through.
Makes sense. And what about the other side? When someone does respond quickly?
Positive reinforcement. It's crucial. You see phrases like, thank you for your prompt response regarding the meeting schedule. Phrase 4, I think.
So it's not just thanks, it's thanks for being fast.
Exactly. It validates their speed, encourages it for next time. And if the matter was really time-sensitive or critical, you might see something stronger, like, thank you for your cooperation and prompt attention to this matter. That's phrase 41.
Okay, that sounds more significant, like they really helped out.
It signals that their quick action was genuinely important, maybe even averted a problem. It elevates it beyond a simple courtesy.
All right, so that covers managing time and follow-ups. What about just exchanging information, documents, files?
Clarity management. This is where standardization is king. You need absolute clarity on what's being sent and what needs to be done with it. Everyone in business needs to know, please find the attached document for your review and feedback. That's phrase 3 again, used slightly differently.
Or please find the attached invoice for your reference, like phrase 31. It's the standard way to say, here's the file I mentioned.
It is. It's a simple, verifiable statement that the file was sent, no ambiguity, and sometimes the info isn't attached, it's in the email body itself.
Right, so you might say something like, please find the details of our meeting agenda below, or even just pointing below, like in phrase 48.
Exactly. The language directs the reader's attention, tells them where to look, and if you need something from them based on that document or information.
You can't just say, let me know what you think.
Well, you could, but it's not very professional or efficient. The language needs to be more specific to get the right input. Think about phrase 12. I would appreciate it if you could provide me with more details. It's a gentle way to ask for more info.
Gentle, yeah. Or more direct, like phrase 34. Kindly review the attached document and provide your feedback.
Notice the wording there, kindly, I would appreciate it.
It keeps it respectful, doesn't it? Like a request, not an order.
It does. It softens the fact that you're essentially giving them work to do. It emphasizes collaboration.
Okay. What about the tone when delivering actual news? Good news, bad news.
Tone management is critical here. For good news, formality often adds weight, makes it feel official. Like phrase 11, we are pleased to inform you that your application has been approved.
Or even for customers, right? Like phrase 27, we are pleased to offer you a discount on your next purchase. Using we are pleased to inform you makes it sound like an official company announcement.
Exactly. It carries the weight of the organization. But for bad news, well, that requires a much softer touch to protect the relationship. Look at phrase 14. We regret to inform you that your request has been denied.
That structure, regret, comes before the denied. That's subtle but important, isn't it?
Incredibly important. It prioritizes the recipient's potential disappointment before delivering the negative outcome. It shows empathy.
Right. It acknowledges their feelings first.
Right.
Much better than just a blunt request denied.
Absolutely. That sounds cold, final.
Yeah.
Expressing regret first signals that you understand the impact, that the relationship matters, and if the mistake was actually on your side.
An apology is needed.
Yes. And the language needs to accept responsibility while perhaps minimizing the drama. Phrase 29. We apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused. It's standard, but necessary. It closes the loop with humility.
So the big takeaway for email seems to be using structured phrases to be clear, manage expectations, and keep emotions in check.
That sums it up nicely. Maximize clarity, minimize volatility.
Okay, so from the relatively calm world of email, let's jump into the deep end. High volume, high stakes verbal communication. Phone calls, customer service, live, no chance to edit.
Right, the verbal realm. Here, tone is everything, and professionalism needs to be established instantly, like within seconds.
How did the phrases help there?
They frame the interaction immediately. Think about the standard openings. Thank you for calling our company. How can I assist you today? That's phone phrase 1. Or maybe, we appreciate your call. How may we assist you today? Phone phrase 14.
It's an immediate welcome mat, plus an open door for them to state their need.
Exactly. Sets the stage. But unlike email, you often need info right away. You can't see who they are.
So you have to ask for details.
Yes, but the language justifies the request. It's not just, who are you? It's phrase 2. May I have your name and company for our records, please? Or for clarity, phrase 16. Could you please spell your name for me to ensure accuracy?
The justification is key. For our records, to ensure accuracy. It makes it sound procedural, necessary, not just nosy.
Precisely. It often links to verification or compliance needs. It gives the request a professional purpose.
Okay, what about those inevitable interruptions? Putting someone on hold, transferring them. You don't want to sound dismissive.
Politeness is crucial. You manage their expectation of a delay. Phone phrase 3. Could you please hold for a moment while I transfer your call? You explain why there's a pause.
Respects their time. And if the person they want isn't there, Mr. Smith is unavailable.
You have to manage that missed connection professionally. You need to give them a clear path forward. Phone phrase 4 is vital. I am sorry, but Mr. Smith is currently unavailable. Can I take a message?
The I am sorry acknowledges the inconvenience, right? And offering to take a message means it's not a dead end.
Exactly. And if you're the one taking that message, you need to provide reassurance. Phone phrase 15. I will ensure that your message is delivered to the appropriate person. It's like a verbal contract. Gives them closure.
We also see phrases for when you can't answer immediately, right? Like you need to check something.
Yes, contingency planning. You need to buy time professionally. Phone phrase 21. I will need to look into that further. Can I call you back? Maintains professionalism while acknowledging you need more info or time.
Okay, that flows really well into the customer service context because there, a problem already exists. The stakes feel higher.
They often are. So the language needs to be about commitment to fixing things and crucially showing empathy. You need proactive reassurance.
Like diffusing the tension straight away.
Yes. Notice the strong commitment in CS phrase 7. We are committed to providing excellent service and resolving your issue promptly. It tells them the company takes ownership.
And if an apology is needed.
It often gets framed by reaffirming company values. CS phrase 43. I apologize for any inconvenience caused. Your satisfaction is our priority. It cleverly turns the mistake into a reason to provide better service.
Smart. But before you can resolve anything, you need to figure out what's wrong. Issue triage.
Right, data gathering. You need phrases to efficiently get the necessary details. CS phrase 3. Could you please provide your account number for verification purposes? Or the fundamental starting point for anything complex, CS phrase 8. Could you please explain the problem in more detail? You're structuring the information flow.
Okay, but what if the person on the phone can't fix it themselves? They need to, pass it on or investigate.
Transparency is key then. The customer needs to know what's happening behind the scenes. We mentioned, I'll need to look into that further, but there's also CS phrase 31. I will escalate your issue to the appropriate department for a resolution.
What's the real difference there? Look into it versus escalate.
That's a great question. Looking into it usually implies the person you're talking to is still the main point of contact, doing research or consulting maybe. Escalate, however, signals a formal handoff.
Like it's going up the chain or to a specialist team?
Exactly. It tells the customer their issue is being flagged for higher priority or requires specific expertise. It manages their anxiety by showing a clear, official process, even if the fix isn't immediate. It's about transparency and internal process.
Okay, got it. So let's shift gears now. We've done external comms, email, phone. What about internal stuff? Getting things done within the team or company. Meetings, project management.
Right, internal alignment. Here, the language is less about managing external perception or much more about structure, efficiency, driving action, accountability.
Starting with meetings. We all spend so much time in them. How does the language help make them, better?
It's about establishing and maintaining structure right from the start. The opening sets the tone. Meeting phrase 1. Thank you all for attending today's meeting. Let's get started. Simple, direct, signals readiness.
And then there's the crucial timekeeping aspect. I love meeting phrase 5. Let's make sure we stick to the agenda to respect everyone's time.
That's not just polite, is it? It's a tool.
Definitely. It's a discipline mechanism. It lets anyone gently pull the conversation back on track without seeming like they're being dictatorial.
Precisely. It appeals to the collective good, everyone's time, rather than just the chair's authority. And when you need more depth on a point,
you need to probe without shutting discussion down.
Exactly. Meeting phrase 10. Could you please elaborate on your point for further clarification? It encourages deeper thinking, ensures you're not just skating over assumptions.
And then the end of the meeting, possibly the most important part, nailing down what happens next.
Absolutely vital. You need phrases that secure deliverables, assign responsibility. Meeting phrase 11. I will share the meeting minutes with everyone after the session. That creates the official record, the list of actions.
And making sure actions are decided. Meeting phrase 33. Let's ensure we have a clear action plan before we conclude.
That phrase is key. It forces the transition from just talking about things to defining what will be done, by whom, and ideally by when. Prevents meetings from being just talking shops.
Okay, so meetings are about structure and action plans. What about managing the actual projects that come out of those meetings?
Project management language gets even tighter, more focused on status, delivery, hard accountability. The phrases are designed to monitor progress against the plan, like PM phrase 2. Could you please provide an update on the current project status?
Simple, direct, asking for the facts.
Yes, and setting clear deadlines. PM phrase 3. We need to ensure all tasks are completed by the end of this week. These aren't suggestions, they're targets. PM language constantly tracks time, scope, and cost.
And good project management looks ahead, right? Resources, risks.
Definitely. The language has to address that up front. PM phrase 6. We need to allocate resources efficiently to meet our project deadlines. That links people, budget, time right from the planning stage.
And anticipating problems.
Crucial foresight. PM phrase 11. Could you please identify any risks associated with the current project plan? This puts the responsibility for identifying and planning for risks squarely on the team involved.
Forces them to think ahead, own the potential issues.
Exactly. And speaking of potential issues, one of the biggest headaches in projects is
Scope creep.
scope creep. That slow addition of extras that weren't originally planned, it kills budgets and timelines.
So how does the language police that?
PM phrase 34 is a powerful tool. Let's review the project scope and ensure there are no scope creeps.
Let's review, again, making it collaborative.
Right. It frames it as a shared responsibility to check against the agreed plan, not just the manager cracking down. It turns boundary policing into necessary governance, keeping everyone aligned with the original goals.
Makes sense. Okay, let's zoom out even further. From projects to the really high-level stuff, strategic language, business planning, marketing strategy. This is where big decisions about direction get made.
Yes, and the language here often determines where the big money and effort go. Strategic planning, for instance, often needs a structured starting point. Our sources mention SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats.
Right. BP phrase 4. Let's discuss the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats facing our business. Using that specific phrase signals you're using a rigorous framework, not just brainstorming randomly.
Exactly. Structure again. And the output of that analysis needs to drive alignment. If day-to-day work doesn't support the big picture, it's wasted effort.
Hence phrases like BP phrase 7, let's ensure our business plan aligns with our long-term vision and mission.
And notice the distinction there. Vision, the aspirational future state, and mission, what the company does now to get there. The strategic language forces clarity on how those two connect.
And when setting goals from the plan.
The language needs to keep things grounded. BP phrase 6. We need to set realistic and achievable goals for the upcoming year. It guards against wishful thinking. Demands goals be based on reality.
Good discipline. But plans change, right? Markets shift.
They certainly do. So adaptability needs to be part of the conversation from the start. BP phrase 24. We need to ensure our business plan is adaptable to changing market conditions. This frames flexibility as a strength, not a failure of the original plan. Makes it easier to pivot when needed.
Okay, that's planning. What about executing strategy through marketing?
Marketing strategy language shifts the focus heavily onto the audience and measuring the impact. It starts with targeting. MKT phrase 3. We need to identify our target audience for the upcoming marketing campaign. Basic, but absolutely fundamental.
Can't market if you don't know who you're talking to.
Exactly. And once you know who, it's about how you connect. MKT phrase 12. We need to create engaging content that resonates with our target audience. The key word there is resonates.
Not just seen, but felt.
Understood.
Provoking a response.
Precisely. Does the message land? Does it stick? Does it drive the desired feeling or action? That's resonance. And then, of course, measurement.
Everything needs to be measurable now. KPIs.
All right. MKT phrase 4. Let's discuss the key performance indicators for measuring our marketing success. Language of accountability. How do we know if this is actually working?
And ensuring the message itself is consistent.
Non-negotiable for brand integrity.
Yeah.
MKT phrase 15. We need to ensure our marketing message is consistent across all platforms. This guides the whole team to maintain visual and verbal coherence. Protects the brand.
And like planning, marketing needs constant review, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You need to ask, is this working? MKT phrase 13. Let's review our current marketing channels and their effectiveness. Where should we double down? Where should we pull back?
And the ultimate check. MKT phrase 46. Let's review our marketing strategy and ensure it supports our business objectives.
That's the final alignment piece. Is our marketing activity actually helping achieve the company's core strategic goals? Or is it just, busy work?
Okay, fascinating. So we've covered internal strategy. Now for the last big area, external mastery. This is where things get really delicate sometimes. Business negotiation, intercultural dynamics.
Definitely high stakes. Diplomacy, trust, understanding they're paramount here. Let's start with negotiation. The language aims to steer things away from a battle towards a shared solution.
So less I win, you lose.
Much less. The core principle, repeated often, is something like neg phrase 5. We are looking for a mutually beneficial arrangement that satisfies both parties.
Setting a collaborative tone from the outset.
Yes, and framing the desired end state positively. Neg phrase 45. We are confident that we can achieve a win-win outcome for both sides. It anchors the conversation in shared success.
But getting to that win-win often requires understanding the other side's position better, right?
It does, so you need language for clarification, for probing gently. Neg phrase 3 is key. Could you please clarify your main objectives for this negotiation?
That sounds simple, but it's tactically important, isn't it? You're trying to uncover their priorities, maybe their walkaway point, without being too direct.
Exactly. It's information gathering disguised as a request for clarity. And then you need language to signal willingness to move. Neg phrase 10. Let's explore potential areas where we can make compromises to reach an agreement.
Actively opening the door for give and take.
Yes, acknowledging that compromise is usually necessary. And once you find common ground, you need to solidify it verbally before the lawyers get involved. Neg phrase 16. We are committed to finding a solution that works for both parties. Builds trust.
And then the final step before signing.
Making sure it's all written down clearly. Neg phrase 34. Let's ensure that all terms are clearly documented in the final agreement. That's the bridge from diplomatic agreement to legal contract. Confirms everyone understands the need for formality.
Okay. Negotiation sounds like a careful dance. What about the other external piece, intercultural communication? That feels increasingly vital.
Absolutely critical in global business. And it requires, maybe more than anything, sensitivity and humility. The foundation is acknowledging its importance. I see phrase 1. It is important to understand cultural differences in international business settings.
And recognizing diversity as a strength, not just a challenge.
Yes, I see phrase 18. We believe that diversity of thought strengthens our team and business outcomes. That frames cultural difference as a strategic advantage, fostering better problem solving.
So how does the language help navigate those differences respectfully?
It's often about asking, not assuming, deferring to their expertise about their own culture. I see phrase 2. Could you please explain how business is typically conducted in your country?
Instead of guessing, you just ask. Respectful.
Very. It shows you value their context. And for potentially tricky areas, you need specific, careful inquiries. I see phrase 21. Could you please help us understand any cultural taboos we should avoid?
Better to ask than to cause offense accidentally.
Much better. And understanding how they prefer to communicate is also key. I see phrase 10. Could you please explain the preferred communication style in your country? Formal emails, quick calls, high context, low context. Knowing that saves a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. And finally, fostering inclusion, making partners feel comfortable.
Crucial for building trust. Acknowledging their efforts when differences arise helps. I see phrase 7. We appreciate your flexibility in accommodating different cultural practices. And stating your own commitment. I see phrase 23. We strive to create a culturally inclusive work environment for everyone. It reassures partners and builds lasting relationships.
Wow. Okay, that was a really detailed journey through the architecture of professional language, wasn't it? From email tension and phone call structure.
Through project accountability and strategic alignment.
All the way to the diplomacy needed for negotiation and global interactions. It's quite a map.
It really is. And the big synthesis, the powerful takeaway, I think, is that context drives everything. These phrases aren't just interchangeable, polite noises.
No, they're tools.
Exactly. Tools for efficiency, for setting boundaries, for clarity. If you're negotiating, you need mutually beneficial language. If you're managing a project internally, you need deadline and risk language. Knowing the communication environment tells you which tools to pull out of the toolkit.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting for you, the listener. We've spent this time showing how mastering these sort of formal phrases is really essential for structure, for clarity, for professionalism, for trust. They're like the guardrails.
They provide that necessary framework.
But now consider this. If the whole point of professional language is efficiency and trust, when is the most powerful, the most effective business communication achieved by actually dropping all that formality?
Yeah. When do you deliberately step outside those guardrails?
When do you use the simplest, most direct language possible?
Think about it. When does all that professional ritual, all that careful phrasing
Yeah.
actually get in the way? When does it become a barrier to the very thing it's supposed to achieve: clear, quick understanding and connection?
When is the most professional, most effective thing you can possibly say? Simply, I need help. Or, I made a mistake. Or just, let's talk, plain and simple.
That's something for you to think about in your own communications. When does less formality achieve more?
That's your final thought to mull over. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.